Okay, so last time we printed a second mix. So we're actually at the point where we need to start naming our mixes. So we're going to name this mix 3 here. So save session as. So it's Control Command S. So Control Command S. It's not opening up. There we go. So now we're going to call this mix 3, right? The other one was mix 2, but we'll get to that later. Okay. So there's a few things I heard. Of course, I want to give my ears some time to rest. And when I was listening to the mix, I noticed that some of the transients with some of the synths weren't quite as pronounced as I would like them to be. They kind of need to pop out a bit more. So I might have to go back to the drawing board a little bit with this. The bass also just sits too forward in the mix. It needs to just kind of go back a bit. Right. Other things, for the most part, that I fixed in the first 2 mixes. The things I heard in the first mix that jumped out at me, like the kick drum was it was just too overpowering. The main things have been fixed, but now we need to fix a few other things. So let's take a look here. Let's go for an easy win. Let's take a look at the bass. What can we do to make this sit back a bit in the mix? So I've got this API Vision. And I'm almost wondering if that's just, again, APIs, they are known for being a bit more mid-forward. So I want something that's going to bring it back a little bit. Bring it back into the mix? That is the question. I'm going to get rid of all these other plugins because they're not really terribly necessary. The LA2A is probably not a bad idea for this, but we've got some compression on it, as we can tell. And to be fair, it's not terribly overpowering. So the bass already has a lot of high ends we can hear, probably not from this end. So there's a few things we can do, right? So if you want, so naturally, when something is farther away from you, there's going to be less high end content. So the air actually has some natural high roll off, believe it or not. So we can do that. We can roll off some of the high end here. I see we boosted it actually. So what if we did the opposite? We're gonna actually roll it off. We're going to lower it off by -4 now. So it's still pretty forward, but now it sounds a little muddied. So what if we just use another channel strip altogether? What channel strip would do it? Maybe a Neve type emulation. So we have stuff from, I think, Brainworks here. Console on, I believe, is what it is. Why am I doing this one? I want to use this one. Let's have this. I want to see something here. mono. We have too many plugins also, so let's see if something as simple as putting this here. Also mix a little bit here with this. I feel like it's gonna come in handy here. So we're gonna mix with the Waves NX here. Hopefully it doesn't crash my computer. Of course it's gonna do this. We don't need this necessarily, but oh well, it'll do it anyways. Yep, crashed it. Let's close this out. All right, we're just not going to use it. Rid of a little bit of that honk also. So before I even do all this, let me just see what happens if I put this back. Whoops, to USA. So as you can hear, that didn't really do much for the bass. Oops, let's rewind this. Ah, dear. You know, I was thinking too when it was in stereo. It made the center feel hollow, and the bass was still kind of in front of you, but it sounded like it was above your head. At least through headphones, it sounded like the bass was coming up from here. So, what if we use the stereo bass, but narrowed it a little bit? Speaking of which, we wanted to narrow this. Did we ever narrow these? No, we didn't. So we're going to narrow these a little bit. I wonder if we would just need to redo the bass entirely. I don't know if I want to use another instrument though for the bass. That's the thing. I wonder which bass we used. I wonder if we used the ones that were dry or if they were affected. I mean, even with Master Effects on the bass, if that's what I'm using, it's not terrible. So let's see here what happens. Let's actually just fast forward a little bit to where the bass might be. See, it's always good to think about the vision you have for the song. That's going to include the actual individual instruments too. So I'm not too discontent with how the bass is EQ'd and sounds. Again, you have to think everything, the big picture, and then work from there to fill in the, to make sure that the details in that big picture match. But what happens with a lot of people when they're mixing, even at the intermediate level, they just think of, well, how do I fiddle around with the controls so this sounds good, but then in context you're like, well, does it fit the overall picture, right? Does it work with the overall picture that they didn't have in mind to begin with? So you want to begin sort of with the end in mind. So here we have this issue. So how do we mold this to match what we have in mind when we're mixing? So, and in this case, I'm maybe a little guilty of not thinking about the big picture, just think about, well, how do I get the bass to sound better, but not taking in context how it sounds better with the rest of the tracks, right? So let's take a quick look here. We're at 12 minutes, so I'm going to make a new video and we'll go back to the bass in the new video.